So here's a sitch on the ATL box score today. We first get into the Falcons' 2019 schedule. ESPN released their version of college football's power rankings. We talk a little bit about that, and then we go around the SEC talking spring games. Then we have a special guest here on the ATL box score, Mr. Rob Saye, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs, is joining us today, talking G-Day, talking all things Georgia football, past, present, and future. This is the ATL Box Score Podcast, Atlanta's newest sports podcast, and you're listening to Football Friday. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATL Box Score as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATL Box Score, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown, near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Well, whoa. This is what happens sometimes when you're trying to do some special effects. The levels, for some reason, start jumping. And that was some video that the Atlanta Falcons put together. I applaud them on their creativity for getting ready for the 2019 season. And yes, football is coming. Now, if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, the past couple of days, the NFL schedules got released at the beginning of the week this year, and at the beginning of the week for this upcoming season. And the Falcons put together a creative video. I haven't seen any of the other teams doing this, where they do like a Game of Thrones type of theme song trailer thing that they do. And I think like the TV show Game of Thrones, I don't watch it, but I have seen their intro to the show with their theme song, and I think it's cool how they go to like the different kingdoms and everything like that. Well, they go to the different NFL teams that are on their schedule, and they show like they have like the Kingdom of Atlanta, and they show Minnesota and Houston. So I just think that's super creative. What did you think of that? Because I showed you that video yesterday.
I think it was hilarious and it was awesome. I mean, kudos to the Falcons marketing department, whoever those guys and gals were who designed that. Man, I mean, that's why Atlanta is the Hollywood of the South.
Right. And I saw there's only a United flag there in Minnesota for some reason. I don't know what that's about. If you know what that's about, put that in the comment section.
I love the subtle jabs that they take in, like if you really watch it, the ain'ts.
I was gonna bring that up next. Yeah.
Okay.
You're
and then
ahead of me.
What about the other thing that happened? With the Rams.
Oh yeah, with the Ram. Well, they show like a bunch of Rams run. Are you talking about like when a bunch of Rams are running to Mercedes-Benz?
Yes.
Oh, and you have those like Saints, that Saints fan, and he gets run over by a Ram.
And the ref doesn't call it.
The ref doesn't call it.
Oh man!
Just calls incomplete.
That was the best. That was the
giving
best.
that incomplete signal with those two arms waving.
So good. It's so good, man.
Yeah, it is. It is
like
great.
I said, I got to find out who designed that because I'd love for them to work on anything I ever have.
Yeah.
That's got to be the funnest job in the world, doing stuff like that.
Trying to figure out things and
just making up stuff like that.
Yeah,
where it's not a super huge deal, but it's like awesome.
But it's like to put it together and everything like that, to create something is pretty awesome when you see it.
Yeah. You got to link it in your show notes so that way people can see it because it's the best.
Oh, I did. When the show notes go up. So happy Friday. Happy Good Friday here on the ATL Box Score podcast. It seems very deserted today in the office. You notice that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
For me, it's Great Friday.
Great Friday?
Yeah, because no one's around.
Taking that holiday off. So, yeah, it is. I mean, you, instead of parking on like the 7th floor, you parked on the 5th floor. So,
yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Everything's all gravy. Two things I want to get to before I want to get into the Falcons schedule since we brought up the video. But before that, now we're also going to get into college football power rankings and some spring games before we get Rob Saye on. And by the way, I'm Alex Berger. Alongside me is Steve Choi joining us on a rainy Friday morning. And, buddy, I just have to ask you, I felt good when I checked the ESPN app this morning to find out that the Dubs took care of business. Against the Clippers. And it seemed like it was just a game of nutrition, that you just could not stop Kevin Durant, first of all, and that the Clippers just run out of gas. I mean, that's what the box score tells you.
Right.
Because it was somewhat close in the first quarter I saw.
No.
You just
No, they were up by 20 by the end
I
of
saw
the first quarter.
okay, guys, I saw the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it was close for like the first like minute.
For the first minute.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know.
Not like first 5 minutes.
No. Yeah, we totally dismantled them. And, you know, not trying to brag or boast. I mean, this is what a number 1 seed should do to a number 8 seed. So it's not something that anybody should go screaming at the top of their lungs about. But it's like what I said. I said, you know, if the Clippers can maintain or sustain shooting 67% from the field like they did in the second half when they did mount that amazing comeback, then, you know, I guess you might as well just go ahead and give them the trophy, because any team that can continually shoot 67% from the field, they're going to win every game.
Right.
So,
which they should.
So, you know, I knew that. Was I concerned? The biggest concern I have is how did the Warriors, how do they respond to having DeMarcus Cousins out? And Andrew Bogut stepped up.
Yeah,
he's a beast, man. I'm so glad to have Andrew Bogut back, because he was part of the first team that won the championship. And I was sad to see him leave, but they had to make room for Kevin Durant, and so I'm just glad he's back.
Mm-hmm. The last item I want to get to that is non-football related on Football Friday. This is excuse me. This is our Football Friday show. We name our shows different names of the day of the week, and on Friday we only just talk about football. But I get into a couple non-football items at the beginning of the show, so that was one of them. And this is the last thing before we go all football on you. The Atlanta Braves just tanked their series with the Diamondbacks. They lost Tuesday, they lost Wednesday, and they lost yesterday at 12 o'clock.
Did they get swept? They won at least one game, didn't they?
No, they got swept.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I am 100% on that, but I'm going to fact check.
But either way,
yes, they got swept.
Yeah, they didn't perform.
Right, and it wasn't offense again. It was pitching going into the later innings.
Right, the relief.
Right. Now they have a series with Cleveland up there in Indian Stadium, reuniting the 1995 teams again. When I'm just saying that. I know they probably have to play. Yeah, they probably have to play the Indians. Well, yeah, this has been a while since they played the Indians, because it is interleague play. Now that I think about it, thinking out loud. So the good thing about that is that the Braves are going to have national exposure, because they are the game on Sunday Night Baseball. So they're the Sunday night game. And in case you haven't been keeping track, which, if you don't know, in baseball, like, you pretty much have to finish up. It's kind of like the NFL. You pretty much have to finish up all your Sunday games by a certain time. And then it's just ESPN has the airwaves for Major League Baseball. So that's what's up with that. So that's the good thing. Now we're about to get into some Falcon. Yeah, we're about to get into the Falcon schedule, and then we're going to switch gears to college, because this is mainly going to be a college football podcast. Especially if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, you're in the right place. I mean, this is more going to be towards Georgia Bulldog fans, having Rob Saye on the show, who is a photographer that covers Georgia games exclusively, and he shot over like 120 Georgia games. So we have him on the show to talk about the Dawgs, especially because it's the spring game in Athens tomorrow, or if you're listening on a Saturday, but Saturday Athens in Athens at 2 p.m. Always a great time to see the Dawgs, especially around this time of year where we've been deprived of football. So we get him We get Rob on the show to get his thoughts about the program currently and just his stories. He's got a lot of great stories because he's been around the Georgia Bulldog program for a long time. So
that's an awesome interview. I mean, that's kudos to you for having him on, because the thing about photographers is they are the eyes of everything, right? So they're always watching and observing, and yeah, they must have some amazing stories because they just blend in,
right? And
no one really notices that they're taking pictures or listening and whatnot, and so people just go about their business, and they get to be like a literal fly on the wall and capture everything, with their camera, but also they get to be there in the moment and hear and feel everything that's going on.
Right. I mean, it said. I mean, he's gonna mention this in the interview, but it started for him collecting Sports Illustrateds. Just seeing the images on Sports Illustrated.
Oh man, that's so awesome.
So, we're gonna have Rob on the show, but before we get into all that, just wanted to let you know we talked about spaces at the beginning of the show. So there's a 15% discount out there just using promo code Alex. If you get a full-time office or a dedicated desk for 12 months, if you sign up for a 12-month plan with them, you get 15% off your purchase going on right now. That might change. I mean, I think the next one's promo code Choi. That's what I hear in the grapevine. I'm not sure, but thanks for being with us here on a Good Friday or Saturday. So going to G Day, but yeah. Well, like I said to start off the show, the Falcons, their schedule got released, and all the NFL team schedules got released. And I look at this, and majority of their tough games this year, Steve, I've noticed that they are at home, except for the first one. The first one I feel like is probably going to be one of the toughest games the Falcons are going to have to face, playing Minnesota at Minnesota. I feel like if they can get over that hump, you play the Eagles at home. The Eagles is that's going to be another tough game, and you also play Indianapolis on the road, which is another tough one. Outside of that, I mean, if the Falcons, some reason in like the first 3 games, could either go 2-1 or 2-1 is probably your best thing. You hope for 3-0, but I feel like that's kind of just wishful thinking. That's having your stunner shades on. And but after that, if they can just weather the storm of because you hope they don't start the season going 1-2, and now you have to play a critical. Yeah, now you have to play against a Tennessee team, and that has to be a win for you to get some momentum going for the start of the season. I know too. You also play the Texans on the road, but you really don't know. Like, we really don't know how good the Texans are going to be at this point, because the Texans for a while have kind of been all over the place, up and down and sideways and backwards and everything like that. I mean, having J.J. Watt out of their starting lineup has really hurt them, and it's kind of like that's their Julio. When Julio's in, Falcons do good things. Like, you have the Rams at home, you have Seattle at home, so I feel like that works in their favor. The interesting thing is, I mean, I get that it's like you have to play, like, in division, you have to play the Saints on the road and the Panthers on the road. But at the same time, you play that Thursday night Thanksgiving game with the Aints at home. So I feel like overall, like they have to play some tough road games, but I feel like they got a decent slot. Knowing that it's like you could probably give up one in New Orleans and then probably try to beat them on Thanksgiving Day. Because I don't see the Falcons winning the series against New Orleans. I think they're going to probably split that. And I feel like with the Rams and Seattle, especially Russell Wilson getting that contract, and the Rams coming off a Super Bowl appearance, you expect that both of those teams are going to be a challenge for the Falcons.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's so funny, man. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be this is going to be the Falcons' redemption season, I suppose.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, a lot of people hope so.
They still have the talent. So, obviously every year that they go and get older and that's a year further away. But, I mean, I think it was an anomaly last season with all the injuries. I for sure expect them to be in the running for postseason, if not a lock-in. But, again, like you said, it just depends on what everybody else brings to the table this season. You never know. There's always these breakout teams every season that, whether it's the formula, whether it's the chemistry, or whether it's just the talent getting better, they just, kind of step it up.
And that's just football in general. I see the way their schedule lines up that they have some challenging road games, but it's like majority of those at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. And especially having Seattle and the Rams in Mercedes-Benz, I feel like is going to help them out.
Right. Well, what is it like? 4 of their last 6 games.
The last stretch of the season.
Yeah, 4 of their last 6 games or something are at home. So
right,
and I think they have 3 in a row at home, starting with the Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving, you play the Panthers. That might either be a cakewalk or tough, but you play that game at home. Then you have to play.
Well, so Thanksgiving's at home.
Thanksgiving's at home
against the Aints,
right?
And then you got Panthers at home.
And then you have to go to the Bay, from the Aids
to
the Bay.
That's right. That's right. From the Aids of the Bay.
And you play your Niners, and
which that's always
right.
Who knows what teams coming.
Then you play Jacksonville at home.
That should be a lock.
And then you play Tampa away.
Yeah.
To end the season. So I feel like it helps out. Getting to some college football power rankings. Those came out on ESPN, and I guess it's just ESPN's way to say, hey, college football is still out there. Football is coming soon. And we just wanna get our 2 cents in and put some drama in there. And Alabama's not at number 1. You have Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, Mississippi State, and Washington. That rounds out your top 10. So the expectation level is there for the Dogs.
Chin up.
Yeah, getting at number 3. I'm surprised Clemson. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I guess Clemson is one of those teams too that they it's one of those things that nowadays you should win the ACC. You should pretty much just have an undefeated or close to perfect record, and we'll really find out who the real Clemson team is coming into the playoffs. And it's kind of one of those things you don't know how good they are until they get into the playoffs.
Sure.
In my opinion.
Sure.
In my opinion. Now I think there's no reason why they can't get back into the playoffs and playoff contention and everything like that. I didn't foresee them. It's kind of one of those things, like, you don't know how good they actually are until they're on those big stages, because they don't get challenged week to week with where Clemson's at. But Alabama, I feel like, is probably in the right place. Same. I was a little surprised Georgia is at number 3, but hey, I mean, you're starting to see, I mean, Georgia is probably going to have the best line of scrimmage, and this is where Kirby wanted the program to go, in the country, hands down, both defense and offensive line. I think the Dawgs should be, or at least projected right now, they should have the they should own the line of scrimmage. But and also too, Alabama might be on a down year this year. Just saying.
What makes you think that?
Just because the talent level isn't there like it used to be. I mean, to say that though, it's like the talent is there to win a national championship. Don't get me wrong, but I think I think where we're going with recruiting and seeing Clemson, Georgia get a lot of these guys, it could be guys that would go to the Crimson Tide 10 years ago, are going to Georgia, Clemson. So the playing field, I feel like them is narrowing a little bit.
Sure.
So
I guess we'll see.
We will see. Like I said too, this Saturday is Georgia's spring game, and for those of you who don't know what a spring game is, it's pretty much just every team has one of these. What it is, it's a scrimmage that you open up to the public when you get down to like the nitty gritty. So it's another practice that's open up to the public, and these things have gotten creative over the years because it's kind of like everyone's looking to what these college programs are doing, and it's hard to. I always go back to this, like, it's cool to see football again, and I think we all get excited to see football, but at the same time, I think we all make quick judgments on these particular programs, and it's just a hard baseline determinator because, like, your starting quarterback or your guy that's in a quarterback competition, you know he's good. Like Aaron Murray, for example, back in 2010 was in a competition with Zach Mettenberger, and surprisingly, both of them actually ended up in the American Alliance of Football League as starting quarterbacks. But anyways, back in that time, you heard a lot of hype about Aaron Murray, and then Zach Mettenberger just pretty much showed him up. He just had one good game, and all the Georgia people were just like, that should be the guy. But actually, Aaron Murray, just because of other circumstances, got the starting job for the Dawgs and never looked back. But at the same time, you have a lot of that going on. You haven't really seen a lot of it this year. Probably watching the Alabama spring game, if you have Bo Nix in a competition with Malik Willis, who's a quarterback I covered in high school. And you would think that Malik Willis is going to be the starter come the fall, just because he's been in the program the longest. But you have a guy like Bo Nix pushing for that position and pushing him in that way. Also, with the Florida spring game, and I have to mention the Florida spring game, and it's funny, this week, like, I watched a lot of these during my lunch break because they were, like, the recaps were on ESPN. And Florida spring game in particular, there was a whole lot of offense. And that's what I've just noticed around the SEC, that there's been a whole lot of offense and not a lot of defense, not a lot of turnovers, or you can't really simulate sacks. And that's another thing, too, I've noticed. Like, I even watched Oklahoma's spring game, and everyone's just running around all over the place, and especially the quarterbacks. Like, you can't – it's hard to determine now because a lot of these offenses are predicated off of quarterback runs. So it's kind of hard to say, like, was he sacked? Was he not sacked? Guys had ankles on him, but you can't really – you can only touch him or push him, but you can't really hit him, because they have that no contact jersey on. So that's just another thing I've noticed in Florida spring game, man. That was just all offense, no defense. Even with Alabama, they showed a lot of flashy offensive plays, which you usually don't see that from Alabama, but that's been Alabama's offensive trend, where they make these big explosive plays in their offense. But usually it's the opposite case this time of year, where we see the defenses showing up and showing out, and it's always the offenses that are always behind, because offense takes a while to install and to get timing right. But we're not seeing that this year. We're seeing a lot of flashy offensive plays in spring football. And I even thought it was funny watching Alabama spring game that you had Tua's brother. I didn't even know he got recruited by Alabama, but I thought that was interesting to have the Tagovailoa brothers, and I know I probably butchered that. It's one of those things you're not used to saying it. You're always used to saying the dude's first name. It was interesting to have that pair, because it looks like Talia. It looks like he's going to be the third string quarterback for Alabama this year. He's probably going to take a red shirt. I see that happening. So also too, LSU's showed a lot of good offense, not a lot of great defense. So that's kind of your look around the SEC. I didn't cover all the SEC schools, just the ones I saw. I thought it was cool that South Carolina gave a walk-on scholarship to their place kicker when he kicked a field goal to go into the locker room, and they just kind of stayed around and to watch a video. That was set up perfectly by the South Carolina staff and South Carolina in general. That was a really cool moment. I know it was a moment that young man will never forget. So, well, with that being said, that's been a look around the SEC spring games. And now we're going to welcome on Rob Saye. But before we do that, we need your help, actually. If you like what you heard so far, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to the ATL box score, because we want to hear your guys' input on what you thought about the Falcons' new schedule, Kevin Durant going off, Georgia spring game. So put that in the comment section, because we want to hear from you guys. And also to like, subscribe, and comment, and that'll help us out in a lot of different ways that you guys, I don't think that you just don't know. So if you could help us with that, we would appreciate that. If you think we deserve a like, deserve a like or subscribe, be sure to do that. And by the way, we are on all the main podcasting platforms where good podcasts are found. The ATL Box Score is there. Apple, Google Play, Stitcher. So be sure to check us out on those podcasts. However you podcast, we are on that platform. So with that, we're going to welcome to the ATL Box Score Mr. Rob Saye. Well, we have a special treat for you here right now. Our next guest is a photographer that has covered over 100 Georgia football games. He's also a photographer for the Atlanta Touchdown Club. And now we just want to welcome to the conversation Mr. Rob Saye. How are you doing today, Rob?
Hey, doing good.
Just tell me, because you have your own photography company, just tell us more about that and what do you do and just your whole business model.
Okay. Sure. Well, I'm a professional photographer, and I'll go ahead and throw out it's Rob Saye photography.com, ROBSAYE. Photography.com is my website. Right now, just got photos of from Africa on there. But I'm just kind of give you a quick background. I graduated University of Georgia in 1981. Grew up out in the Stone Mountain in the Atlanta area, and did a lot of different things for many years. Got into photography for the Bulldogs back in 2007 through some kind of serendipity things that happened, and I've been photographing for Score Atlanta and Bulldog Illustrated, so this will be my 13th season coming up. And this year I've actually switched over. I've been in business development and sales for many years, and this year I'm going full-time photography. So I'm doing a lot of work in a lot of different areas, and it's great to be on the show. I appreciate you having me, Alex.
Oh, no problem. We're glad that you're here joining us today. And last week, you were actually in Augusta for the whole weekend. You told me you're Jack Nicklaus's photographer. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm real privileged on that. Jack's there from Tuesday, Wednesday, and then he gets a ceremonial shot on Thursday, and then they leave. But I'm his photographer mainly on Wednesday for the par 3. He has some of his grandchildren that are caddying for him, and so those pictures are certainly priceless for them. And I've been fortunate enough and real honored and blessed to be Mr. Nicklaus's photographer for the last 3 par 3 tournaments starting in 2016. We got rained out in 2017.
Okay.
Did it again. This year, and got to be on the Golf Channel set with him, which was awesome, and do the par 3 and in his cabin, and it's just been a really a great bonus to my life.
Right.
Back, yeah.
That's some good stuff, because if you don't follow Rob on social media, you should, because this guy is all over the place. Every major sporting event in Georgia, you're there, man.
Well, I try to be. I've been very blessed to make a lot of contacts. I try to tell my 15-year-old that it's sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm an old networking guy and sales guy for 37 years, and that's certainly helped out to meet a lot of people and make a lot of contacts, and looking for those openings and those opportunities, and it's worked out well for me.
Mm-hmm. And I see recently, too, you've had opportunities to photograph your son and your son's team, because your son plays football. Is it for Mount Pisgah?
Mount Pisgah Christian School. Yeah, it's in Johns Creek, where I live in Alpharetta, and he's a freshman, upcoming sophomore, and I do a lot of work for the school, and been really fortunate to photograph all his games last year, and hopefully for the next 3 years if everything goes as planned. And I do a lot of work around the school. I was at Blessed Trinity the other day, and Mount Pisgah doing track yesterday. So it's lacrosse Tuesday, and you just never know what I'm going to be shooting. But I'm expanding that to some other schools and doing a lot of other work from corporate events. Did one up in Athens for Georgia United Credit Union not too long ago. So yeah, just a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, you're really spreading your wings with photography right now. G-Day is on Saturday. Well, technically, we're putting the show out on a Friday, so G-Day is on Saturday, and I'm glad that we could have you on just to talk Georgia football, because that's mainly what since you've been around this program for a long time, and also too that you've been a fan and a supporter and an alumni probably for forever. And
absolutely.
Just before we get into G-Day though, there is a side event that happens, because obviously there's a lot of, with these college football programs, major college football programs like the University of Georgia, there's a lot of side events that happen around this time. It's usually like the busiest day for a head coach, but there's actually an event called the Wally Boys. If you could just explain more about that. I think some Georgia people know about that, but just don't really know about the whole thing.
Sure. Yeah, we have it's called the Wally's Boys, and it's a group of it's basically the guys that played football for Wally Butts, who actually the Butts-Meir building's named after, and Coach Butts was the coach from 1939 to 1960, and they have a reunion every G-Day. It's a breakfast. It's at 8:30 at the Athens Country Club, and it's actually it's open to folks to come if they'd like to. I think it's like $30 or something for the breakfast, but it's a great event, and you have folks like Charlie Trippey's there, who's 97 years old. My uncle is kind of the head of the group. He and Lauren Smith, Lauren wrote the book Wally's Boys, and my Uncle Bill, who was a letterman from 53 to 55, he's actually in the Georgia-Florida game Hall of Fame. Had a great game in 54 where he intercepted two passes, recovered a fumble, and blocked an extra point in 54. So he got into the Georgia Hall of Fame in 2011, Georgia-Florida game Hall of Fame. And so they put it on. Coach Smart comes. Coach Dewey's there. You have a speaker every year, Sonny Seiler, who's a good friend of mine. I'm fortunate enough to be good friends with him, who owns UGA.
Oh, wow.
Most everybody on here knows Sonny's going to be the MC, or excuse me, the speaker, the guest speaker, keynote speaker this year. And so we always have a speaker, and you get a lot of great guys. Fran Tarkington came last year. He's a member of the Wally's Boys. There's Jimmy Harper, who's was the quarterback of my uncle, the center, is the Hall of Fame referee that some people may remember. And it's just a great group of guys. The thing gets bigger and bigger, even though they lose literally 14 to 15 guys a year, which is really sad. But it's still a great event.
It seems like now with Lauren Smith in his role as Georgia football, since Dan McGill passed away a couple of years ago, it seems like Lauren Smith has kind of taken that mantle right now of being the historian for the Georgia program.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because I got my start through Coach McGill. My uncle grew up in Athens, and they lived across the street from Coach McGill. So in 2007, I wrote him a letter about another event, and I came up there and met with Coach McGill for about 4 hours. It was just some of the greatest time of my life, and as a Georgia fan, and spent 4 hours with him, had lunch with him up at the Oak Room and in the Continuing Ed building, and they had his buttermilk waiting for him. So really good stuff. But Coach McGill introduced me to Clark Felton, and that's how I got started. But Lauren has definitely taken that role, and had it for a long time. I mean, he and Louis Grizzard wrote the book that I've got from the 1980 National Championship, which I was in school during that time, and some of the greatest times of my life, obviously. And but yeah, Lauren's a great guy. I talked to him on the phone this morning, and we're getting ready for Wally's Boys. So he does everything up there.
Yeah. So you went to school in the early '80s when it was a really exciting time there at Georgia.
Oh yeah, it was great times. I was fortunate, just could not have had a better career at Georgia. I was I was a member of the Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity. I was president my senior year in 1981. We had Herschel came in 1980. We won the national championship. We won the SEC in '81, and I've been still being able to. You're very fortunate to be friends with some of those guys. I was Buck Ballou and Scott Werner. Frank Ross, who was the captain of that '80 team. My really close friends with two brothers, Steve and Bob Kelly, who were two of my closest friends, and they were on that team. So it was just great times to be in Athens back then. And I graduated in '81. Yeah,
Let me ask you this, since we're on this, and I'm just kind of curious. When you got Herschel, Georgia won the national championship. Did it come as a surprise, or was it something that that people expected could happen, or was it just a big surprise?
No, well, if you listen to the guys like my buddies, the Kelly brothers, I mean, they were shocked when Herschel went into the game against Tennessee. He was the third string. He had not impressed anybody in practice. They were just they were just going, what's Coach Dooley doing putting him in? And then the next thing you know, he runs over Bill Bates, and they said, "Oh my gosh, something's going on here."
Yeah,
and so they were that, but literally, I mean, to a man, they'll tell you they did not see that coming. So none of us saw that coming. We'd had Dooley's worst season, I believe, in '79. And where I know we lost to 3 ACC teams that year, and it was just a rough year. Mm-hmm. And so nobody saw that coming at all, absolutely. But once it started rolling with Tennessee, and then I think we had Texas A&M in Athens, and then things started, really, we beat Clemson. Scott Werner beat them single-handedly, basically. And then it all started going, and I was there at the greatest, witnessing the greatest play in Georgia football history, and I'll debate anybody that still will be the greatest play in Georgia football history till the end of time. The Lindsey Scott play, Lindsey Scott in Jacksonville, and then I missed the only game I missed was the Tennessee game. I was sick.
Oh, wow.
My mom wouldn't let me go. So and, it's kind of funny to think back that far, but yeah, I went to all the games, and it was just a magical time. I mean, it really was. It's just hard to really believe. It's a real blessing from the Lord that we were able to live through that. And I always say, well, they can't take that away from us.
Yeah, absolutely. Always Georgia fans who lived and were in school during that era always bring that era back up. But talking about the current Bulldogs, do you feel like the fan base and people that you talk to that are around the program that with the expectation of going to the national championship in 2008, that the expectation is that Georgia seasons from here on out, because they have the talent, it's pretty much national championship or bust?
I think to some degree that is the case now. I think we got so close 2 years ago, and which was unexpected,
right?
And but to get so close and just, I was in the end zone where they threw that where Alabama threw that touchdown pass, and when we sacked the kid two on the first play, I just said, hey, we won the national championship, and then one play later we're dead. But so I think getting close to that is. I think the expectations are very high. Kirby's put a real stake in the ground as far as what he expects out of this program. I think one of his quotes is that pressure's a privilege, and I think that's something that that we all expect. I saw some rankings. Somebody put something out yesterday, ESPN or somebody had us third. And so I think people expect us now to play with the two that everybody's chasing these days, Alabama and Clemson. So. I can't discount an SEC championship, though.
Right.
That's still what the goal is for everybody. First win the East and then win the SEC. So, those are the first two things. I'm old enough to know that it's a process, and you got to, take steps to get there. And those two things are must-dos to get into the playoff and go to the other games. But yeah, I do believe it's. That expectations are high, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good. So.
With that, do you feel like there's any bitterness towards the Sugar Bowl loss from the fan base?
I mean, for me, no. I mean, I think it's just kind of forgotten. I think we lost that Sugar Bowl when we lost to Alabama in the, when they came back and beat us. I mean, that's just, I was there, and there was just, the energy wasn't there. I mean, it was just, in hindsight, you can say, hey, that we were never going to win that game. I mean, that was the Super Bowl for Texas. They were fired up. They were ready. I saw some things that I had never seen from a Georgia team, frankly. Going into the fourth quarter, no hands raised, kind of thing,
Oh, wow.
and little things like that were just, we weren't into that game, and I think hopefully that's a lesson that I know Coach Smart took it, on the responsibility being his, and I'm sure that everybody hopefully learned from that experience. Sometimes you have to go through things like that before you you have to have that problem before you can move forward, and I think that's what happened. But I don't hear from anybody, hey, that Sugar Bowl killed us or anything like that. I think it's, I think we're, expectations are high, and let's start over and go. It's a new season, new team, and let's go for it.
Right. Just one more thing about the Sugar Bowl that I feel like ESPN used as a narrative to pretty much describe that game when Bevo kind of charged out of his holding area, and everyone made a big deal about that. But I saw a post on social media that you put that that because they were trying to do a photo op or something together, both mascots, and I liked how you put on Facebook that it was hey, it didn't actually. I mean, it went down like that, but they tried to get the two mascots together to take another picture and everything. It's not like there was high hostilities.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, really, what happened? I was with Charles Seiler, who's Sonny's son, that's the handler, before when they were talking to him about bringing UGA over there, and I think really, and then I talked to some people from Texas later on, and I think what happened, real honestly, that to get that thing going, what happened there was that they got that approved because you can't transport the long Bevo,
right?
You can transport UGA. So I think that they talked to Georgia and said bring UGA over, but nobody's talked to Texas about Bevo because they hate dogs. So when Bevo saw it, was just like a lack of communication on the Sugar Bowl's part that caused the incident, which could have been disastrous. I mean, those guys, the handlers, handled it real well, and I'm lucky I wasn't there because, hopefully I wouldn't have been shooting the angle, but one photographer almost got gored there, and it could have been a real disaster. So, but then later, and Charles was fast on his feet and grabbed UGA, got him out of there. But we took UGA, or Charles took UGA back around to get some photos. So we've got photos of UGA over there, So UGA wasn't scared,
Yeah,
And I think Bevo was just, Bevo doesn't like, apparently, one of the handlers told me because he hates dogs, and she goes, he's a baby, so I don't know how long Longhorns live, but apparently that was 3 years old.
Wow.
Was the information I got. That must be pretty young for a Longhorn, I guess.
Wow.
But it was an interesting incident. I was on the other side actually with Sonny at the time, and then I saw the commotion going on. I ran over there and was able to, but I missed the big fireworks.
Yeah.
Probably fortunately for me.
Right. Probably a good thing. I just wanted to get your opinions too, because there's been a lot of coaching changes. Jim Chaney is at Tennessee right now, and they had to replace two coordinators at Georgia, and I just want to get your thoughts on how you feel about the coaching changes that happened during this offseason.
Well, I guess I've just got to put my trust in Coach Smart that he knows, that he knows what he's doing. I hate to see Coach Tucker leave. I like Coach Chaney, personally. I'm not crying that he's gone, frankly, just real honestly. I think Coach Kyle, I'm pretty good friends with Coach Coley, and I believe he'll do a great job. He's got a real good rapport with the players. Not to say that Coach Chaney didn't, and like I said, I like Coach Chaney, but I'm excited for that. I love Coach Tucker. I thought he did a great job, but I'm sure that I'm sure we'll be okay. I think obviously Kirby. Everybody knows Kirby's kind of a adjunct. Ad hoc, I guess, defensive coordinator anyway.
Right.
when we're on defense, I spend a lot of time looking through the lens at Coach Smart, because he certainly provides photo opportunities constantly with his nonstop motion, and leaping, and everything else. And Coach Sinclair Coach Sinclair holding him back and everything like that. So it's pretty fun on the sidelines. But I just trust that we'll just it's just like look at Alabama. I mean, they lose coordinators every year,
right?
They're still up there. And I think you're going to see the same thing out of what Coach Sweeney's doing up in Clemson too. And you just have to reload. So.
Right. It seems like that's the reason why they bring a lot of guys, or a lot of like former coaches, or like when Alabama brought on Lane Kiffin a couple of years ago to be that heir apparent replacement.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people want to come in and play and learn from coaches. I mean, that's what happens with Alabama. And I think I've even heard Coach Smart, talk about the fact that, Alabama, the pressure's hard. That's one reason people leave. It's just, you're working with you want to go in there and work for Coach Saban, but you don't want to stay.
Yeah.
And Coach Smart stayed. He thrived on the pressure, and I think that's a good thing for us.
Right.
Because he certainly will learn from what you'd have to. I mean, I got to meet Bear Bryant one time when I was in college, and that was a big thrill for me. But it's hard to say that to say that Coach Saban isn't the best of all time. That'd be an argument that'd be hard to go against.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about Coach Smart and the stuff he does on the sidelines. Would you feel like, because I saw his first game when we played North Carolina, and I was near the Georgia sideline, and just to see the energy that Coach Smart brings, it kind of reminds me of, and I'm a little bit too young that I never really saw it, but I mean I've seen video, and I've seen and I've heard things that it's like Vince Dooley was the same way, that he would just go up and down the sidelines.
Yeah, and Coach, I mean, there's a lot of great pictures. I've got one in my collection of Coach Dooley. You're basically running down the sidelines with Herschel when on the play that Herschel broke Tony Dorsett's freshman rushing record, and against Georgia Tech back in 1980. And Coach Dooley certainly had a lot of kicks and things like that. I mean, and did a lot. I don't think he did it to the extreme that Coach Smart does. I mean, Coach Smart is he's pretty wild over there. But I know Coach Dooley did have some of that, did a lot of that. But Coach Smart might be in a class by himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just want to talk to you about Georgia's rivalries, because it seems like recently they've been making a lot of headlines. I just want to get your thoughts on how you feel about that Dabo Swinney saying that he wants to play Georgia on a regular basis, and that I think for a lot of people, like they played recently, but it's kind of an old rivalry that if you were around in the 80s, like you would get it, but I feel like with my generation, they don't necessarily get it.
Right.
And right now it's like both Georgia and, I mean, it kind of makes sense because both Georgia and Clemson are at the same peak talent-wise and program-wise.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm not a big fan of going up there photographing. I don't like it. But that's just me personally. But it's from the big picture side of it, it makes total sense to play those guys. And they were a huge rival when I was in school. I mean, that game was we beat them. I think it was 2016. I want to say it's a score, and Scott Warner, ran back had an interception run back and a punt run back. And or maybe a kickoff, but anyway, and then the next year we went up there and we had 9 turnovers, and those turnovers cost us the game. They beat us, I think, 13-3. I think I may be wrong on that score, but and then they went on and won the national championship. So we had back-to-back national championships between us and Clemson in '80 and '81. And that was the only game we lost until we lost to Pitt in the Sugar Bowl that year. But so it's and then with Kevin Butler's kick, to beat them, the 60+ yard kick field goal to win the game. was against Clemson in '84, I think, and so there's a big history, and then we stopped playing them, and we sporadically played them. Aaron Murray played them. We played them up there,
right.
And then beat them here in Athens, and then. But yeah, I think it's a natural rivalry that is good for the game, and you've got to go. I was looking at the list yesterday, of all the teams, and Florida was on there, and Auburn was on there, and Alabama and Clemson, and Notre Dame was on there, who we played this year, and it's just like you got to. Everybody's got to go through each other to get to that, that pinnacle of winning the national championship. So I think I think it's a good rivalry, and it certainly makes sense. I mean, how close are they to us? I mean, they're
right.
They're a lot closer than a lot of the schools we play. I can tell you that. So.
Right. Absolutely. There's some talks right now that the Florida rivalry may go to a home and home series. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm not for that at all. I mean, I've been to 41 Georgia-Florida games in a row as a fan, starting in 1978 when I was a sophomore at Georgia, all the way, never missed one, and I love it down there. I think it's one of the great spectacles of college football. I would hate to see that. My uncle's in that Hall of Fame down there. We've been playing it there since 1933, except for the 2 years that they were redoing the stadium, and I went to those games, and in Athens and down in Gainesville.
Oh, wow.
And I love that game, and I think it's a great rivalry. I think that I don't want to disagree with Coach Smart, because I think that he obviously it's his program and he's doing all the right things, but I think what the argument is we pick up, and every other year we pick up a home date that we could bring more recruits in, and to me, one extra home date every other year is not worth a rivalry that's a huge event that's been going on forever. And I'd be shocked if Jacksonville doesn't throw every bit of money that they've got in every bank down there at both schools to keep it there, because that's a huge weekend for those guys down there, and it has been forever.
Yeah, and it's their Christmas economically for Jacksonville.
That to me, that's one thing that the old saying, "It ain't broke, don't fix it."
Right,
and that's
right.
that's how I feel about that game. It's just, hey, it's a great one, and it's been pretty even over these. We won the first 6 I went to, and we won 10 out of the first 12, and then Coach Spurrier showed up, and that's when they they kind of started whipping us, and then Coach Rick had some success in 11, 12, and 13, and then and now Coach Smart's on a little bit of a roll. So I think it's a great. I just love that game. I've always been one of the great times of each year that I look forward to. So I'd hate to see them move it.
Do you especially like it, too, that there's always a bye week now before the Florida game?
Absolutely. That's a good thing. Yeah, and I think they do it, too, now, if I'm not mistaken. But, it's definitely a good time to have a week off before we go. I think that's added something to it. We didn't always have that when we played them back in the Spurrier days, but he just, he had our numbers there for a long time. And he actually, obviously had some great teams, They won the national championship in '96. So.
Right, and it's like we're on a roll right now, so why change anything to that rivalry?
I just hate. That's one thing that I totally disagree with any movement of that game. So that's just my position.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, see, I bet there's some nostalgia there with having the old Gator, watching games in the old Gator Bowl, and now in Alltel Stadiums.
Well, like I said, I saw the greatest play in Georgia history. Wednesday Scott ran right at me, and it was so great. I mean, that was just I'll never forget that. And it's just been a great rivalry, and I think it's like the River Shootout, Oklahoma, Texas, and Dallas. It's one of those things that I'd like to see more of those types of games. I think college fans would too. Most everybody would.
I think too, it's one of those things too. You don't understand like I try to tell people, you don't understand until you're actually there. Because with the Red River rivalry, you have the Texas State Fair is kind of like the backdrop, but for the Florida Georgia game in Jacksonville, it's just the Florida-Georgia game.
Right.
Going on.
Yeah,
so.
And it's a spectacle. I mean, it really is. And it's just, how many regular season games have their own Hall of Fame?
Right.
I mean, I mean, I don't know any others. I mean, Red River may have one, but we certainly have one down there. And like I said, my uncle's a member of it, and that's a great event that they do on Fridays to induct those guys. And it's two people from each team every year, and you've got some of the greatest names in Georgia and Florida history that are in there. I mean, I don't know any that aren't. Yeah, there's some coming down the road. Like Sony and probably Nick and those guys. And Aaron went in last year, which was awesome, and so well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. It also seems like, because right now it's a lot of off the field talk. It always seems like that it's kind of the tradition of the Florida head coach to run his mouth about the Georgia program, and Georgia recently took one of Florida's secondary coaches away. So a lot of, at least the media makes it out to be that there's a lot of just kind of chatter and hostility right now in this rivalry. What do you think about all that?
Well, I was, in the old days, it was, like I said, we were whipping them every year when I first started going to it. It was six. We won 10 out of the first 12 I went to, and we beat them in 1985 when they were number one in the country, or 85 when they had Kerwin Bell and they were number one in the country, and we really that just wrecked their whole year. And and it was pretty heated back then. I mean, there was some crazy stuff going on, from those days. As far as the partying and everything else, and the fights and things like that breaking out a lot. So I've seen it calm down over the years, at least out in the parking lot, so to speak. But I think it's it goes up and down with the intensity of it. I think, and how important it might be to the SEC East is always key. But it'll be interesting to see. Mullen seems to be kind of opens his mouth quite a bit.
Right.
They've had some others in the past that I've never been enamored with the Gator program or the coaches. So they're not my favorite. I'll put it that way.
Right. You're saying that as nice as possible too.
Trying to be nice to our friends from the south of the border.
Gotcha. Another program too, I want to just ask you about that. That it's that you wouldn't think about it from like the record standpoint, but it's always great to get a win against Georgia Tech, and they're going through a lot of different changes right now. And talking to you on the phone yesterday, you made some interesting points that that playing Tech, like, it really doesn't help you, or at least with Paul Johnson, didn't really help you prepare for Alabama in that game. And I just want to get your thoughts on in your experiences with the Georgia Tech rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, obviously it's been for us, a good rivalry. And I go back way back. My family all went to Georgia. Everybody, my dad's from Athens, and my parents met there and all this stuff. But my mom's dad went to Tech back in the 20s. So I was going to some Tech games before I went to Georgia games, because I grew up here in Atlanta. But I just, I have no love lost for Georgia Tech. I'll put it that way, as nice as I could put it. So the rivalry was, we were. We've dominated that, and I think we will always dominate that rivalry. I think, they've snuck in and beat us a couple times, and frankly, those were, I think everybody would admit one of them was a major coaching mistake, and a few years ago, and then different circumstances that led to, I think Paul Johnson beat us 3 times all of them in Athens, and one of them was a real screw up. But I don't know much about the new coach. I never really, frankly, had heard of him until I hadn't put it together that he was at Temple until he came, and I guess he used to be an assistant here. But going to what you mentioned earlier, I know that Coach Smart has said, because I've heard him say it, that in press conferences that that playing Paul Johnson's quote high school or
right.
offense, if you would, being nice about that, or being, I guess, a little jab there. But playing that every year did nothing for us to prepare us for the SEC championship game or a bowl game, whatever was coming next, because we don't ever see that. And I mean, I know Coach, we had dominated them so much this last year, and the writers were all in there. Boy, that was a great defensive, great defensive game for you. And Coach Smart was adamant that, hey, this does nothing for us to prep for Alabama next week. I mean, it didn't help us at all. So I think if this coach is coming in playing a more traditional or more standard offense, like the ones we see every week in the SEC, then that's going to, should help us, should be better than taking a week off, so to speak, to go prep for something else. And also, I know that Coach Smart, they prepared for that crazy offense, a little bit every week, I think. So that's more time that they can spend on something else that hopefully will make it better. But I just I think we'll dominate that rivalry just like we always have. We're going to get faster, stronger players, and I hope we.
Right.
I hope we never lose to them. So
I think that's every Georgia fan's. That's what every Georgia fan wants, and it's one of those things too. You don't really think about it during the season until it's that week. Especially because I was at the UMass game this past year, and I remember listening to the drive home with oh my gosh, Kevin Butler, and they were just talking about it's like you just don't lose to Tech. Even though season we're going through right now and everything, to make it worse, it would be a loss to Tech.
Yeah, and I think you've seen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Coach Donnan lost, I think, 3 in a row, or wasn't it? And then he lost his job over it.
Right.
I think that's pretty much what cost him, his job in Athens. And so Coach Rick had a phenomenal record against them, and Coach Smart's 2-1, I think, right now. He lost that first one, but I believe he lost. Didn't we lose that first one?
Yeah. Coach Smart did lose that first one. So so go ahead. I'm sorry. But to be fair too, it seems like with playing that style of offense, always when we have a new defensive coordinator, he always has trouble with it, and then it's the next year we would just dominate.
Well, everybody has trouble. It seems like everybody always, because you just don't see it. You just don't see it. I mean, same way with Navy running it and whoever else. I don't even know who else I could say that runs it. But it's tough to prepare for. And one little missed assignment it's all about assignment. Tackle or the defense. Staying on the man you're assigned to, and if you miss it, then that guy's gone. That's definitely what happened in 2008 when they beat us in Athens. There was just missed assignments, and they were killing us. So that was But
I was at that game, man. That was terrible. But
yeah.
trying to put a positive note. It was raining. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and it was cold. And
let me tell you one thing from a photographer's, the fans, the coaches, the players. Everybody, it's easy to adapt to the rain, and some people even have fun watching it or playing it or coaching it. But the people that hate it are the guys with cameras, because we hate that, because we got to spend half our time just trying to keep our equipment dry. So but whenever it rains, it's a nightmare for those of us behind the lens.
I could see that too, because it's there's a period of time where you just have to wipe down that lens. Because it would just get so wet. You don't get it wet, but and there's obviously we all have different ways to keep it dry and things like that with covers and things like that. But it's not a lot of fun. You get some great pictures, somebody sliding or the splashes coming up, but it's certainly no fun trying to keep the equipment dry and working at the same time. I mean, I bet it was. The last really rain game that I remember that Georgia played in was that 2015 against Alabama.
Yeah, and that was that was such a they were handling us pretty
Right. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, so that actually was able. Most of us were able to kind of relax on that one because
you didn't have to get
the
shots.
people want to see the pic. The Georgia people only want to see the pictures when we win. That's one of the things.
Right.
Nobody cares too much about photographs from a losing game. So that's one thing that's been fortunate for us is that we've had such a great record over the years.
Uh-huh. Now you're friends with Aaron Murray and Jarvis Jones, and I think a lot of people, and also I think a lot of people know what is going on with Aaron Murray because he's a guy that lives here in Atlanta, but not a lot of people know what's going on with Jarvis Jones. So could you just give us like an update?
Yeah, the last time I saw him at the Sugar Bowl, and I think he wants to finish his degree, is my understanding, and he got a medical retirement from the NFL. Yeah, he played for Pittsburgh for some years and had an injury, and I don't know everything how that works, as far as the compensation levels or anything like that. But he seems to be doing great. He's a great kid. I just, he and I bonded real early. I remember the first time I introduced myself to him, and he said, "Hey, can you get me some pictures?" And I said, "Yeah, Jarvis, I can get you some pictures." And we've been friends ever since. And Aaron and I are pretty close. I got to meet him at the U.S. Army All-American Bowl when he played in San Antonio in '09, and then I photographed for the Touchdown Club of Atlanta, and we gave him an award for Player of the Year, and met his family there, and just photographed his whole career and every game, home and away, and just really kind of bonded with him and the family. So I've got to be good friends with those guys. And Aaron, you couldn't, just fine, both of them are fine young men.
Right.
And Aaron's just a great guy. I'm sorry this Legends thing. I got to photograph one of those games
I saw that.
Yeah, that was fun, but it just, it was kind of an interesting deal. It seemed to be doomed from the start, frankly. But he looked good out there playing, I thought. So maybe he'll give it another shot. I know it's tough for those guys to any athlete. It's tough for them to finally see that, to call it a career.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know if I haven't talked to him about any aspirations for any NFL camps coming up, but it was fun. I know it was fun, that game I shot.
Well, it seems like David Andrews just wins Super Bowls too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, you can't say enough about David. I'm real good friends with him and his family, and that's been fortunate through the photography and got to know his family real well. And he's just, couldn't be a finer guy. Just a real, I kind of call him a cerebral player. I mean, is he the biggest or the strongest or the fastest? Probably no in every category, but he's the starting center for the world champion New England Patriots, and that says a lot. He's one of the team captains. He's been, at the coin toss for the last 2 Super Bowls. And just, an outstanding young man with the Wesleyan, and couldn't say enough good things about him and his family. And, just the ultimate success. He got 2 Super Bowl rings and 4 years of pro football. So it's a lot more than, many people have. And, it's great. And, he was undrafted. Coach Belichick found him and came down, worked him out, and just said, "Hey, we're going to sign you after if you don't get drafted." Yeah, he didn't get drafted, and the Patriots signed him immediately. And look where he is today. And he's a leader on that team.
Just 2 more questions I want to ask you. First of all, what are you looking forward to with G-Day, the actual game, and what do you look forward to try to get as a photographer to shoot for that game?
In real, the way that we work at Bulldog Illustrated is Vance Levy, who's my editor and publisher, gives us assignments. So we kind of go, hey, and for me, I don't know how people have followed Bulldog Illustrated over the years, but over the last, I guess it's been 3 years now, we switched over from being a like newspaper-like publication to a magazine. Just and I grew up collecting Sports Illustrated. I've got thousands of them, literally, and it's just that's where I kind of learned to kind of got my eye as far as sports photography. My grandmother gave me a subscription in 1970,
right?
So that's how old I am. But anyway. But yeah, so we get an assignment, and so I texted Vance yesterday. What are you looking for? So but I know we'll look for the newcomers. All the freshmen that are already enrolled. So we'll look to shoot all those guys. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. Anybody that hasn't played that's coming off injury, I don't think Zamir's playing. I don't know. I may be wrong. You may know that better than me. But if somebody like Zamir White, was that going to be out there? We'd go for him.
Right.
And I'll get and he'll tell me what he wants on that cut, what he's looking for the spring issue on the cover, and I'll go for that. Last year it was Jake Fromm, and I was fortunate enough to get some really good shots of Jake, and we used one on the cover, and that was good. I like those covers. So that's kind of my goal every week, if I can, is to try to get the shot that goes on the cover. Just like, I hope to have a wall full of those by the time I hang it up. So
right. Well, that's probably. Well, getting those Sports Illustrateds, like seeing those great those great shots, is probably what inspires you to get the cover shot.
It did, and it does now. That's the one everybody sees on the newsstand. So, and it's I think that was one of the first covers that last year that Jake had been on, because it was kind of, but obviously he's on a lot of those, the Street and Smiths and Antoine and all those other things, but I don't know that he had been on any of those yet, because he was coming off of his freshman season. So it was good to have a picture that his mama likes, because she does like that. So that's good. So
are you close with the Fromms at all?
Yeah, they're great people. Yeah, I've gotten to know. That's one of the great things about the photography, because I'm a sales guy. I've been described as a sales guy with a camera. Sometimes I hope that my skill is better level than that, but I'm a kind of communicator guy, so networking guy and everything. So that's been probably the greatest thing about this whole process that I've been through the last 12, 13 years, is all the contacts and the people I've got to know, and knowing the families and knowing the friends. And, actually Miss Fromm, I took my son to the Kentucky game this year, and one of the things, he wanted to get a picture with Kirby and a picture with Jake, and wow. Jake came out of the locker room, and he was just kind of on a mission to head to the bus, and Lee, Jake's mom, grabbed him and said, "Get a picture with Rob's son." And he stopped, took a picture with Robbie, and it's an awesome picture. And then he just said, "Hey, I got to go." We found out later he was hurt. And so, that's why we didn't know. Lee didn't even know, his mom didn't even know he was hurt. So it was a real, I told her, I said, "I can't thank you enough for stopping him to get that picture, because it's priceless for my kid." And
right.
And but yeah, so it's good to know. It's good. It's not what you know, it's who you know again. So that worked out great.
Right.
But yeah, they're fantastic people. I'm seeing they got a kid at Auburn now, so that's I'm having to. I'm not looking at everything they post right now, so on Facebook, because the Auburn connection, but I wish them the best on that. Yeah.
Right. You also have Dylan Fromm, who's a quarterback, I think, for Warner Robins right now, who's also tearing up.
Well, he's at Mercer now, so those kids are twins, I believe, and they're now at one's at Auburn and one's at Mercer.
Wow. Yeah, man, the Fromm family is just a football family there.
Absolutely. Great people, fantastic people.
Right, they seem like it. Before I get you out of here, though, a question that because looking at your Facebook page, that you post a lot of pictures that you've taken over the years, and it seems like you've gotten a lot of pictures with either like local celebrities, sports kind of like well-known people in the sports industry, and celebrities in general. So I'm just curious, who are like the nicest people that you didn't really expect that were going to be nice and gracious to you?
Okay, yeah, and if you give me a minute after we talk about this, I got a couple of people I want to thank, too, if
Okay,
that's okay.
absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
yeah, but I've been real fortunate with this. I mean, in the old days, I got into a hobby with some of my friends, and it was really tied into that Sports Illustrated. Is we collected autographs, and it was it wasn't to sell. As a matter of fact, the people that resell them were really on my I won't say what kind of list, but I'm not real big fans of those guys, and so we it was just one of our things that we did. I didn't hunt or fish at the time, played golf, but we collected autographs. So I got to meet a lot of people, Muhammad Ali, and John Wooden, Coach Wooden, and I'm just trying to think Pele, some of the bigger names, and things like that. Arnold Palmer, just different people. I've gone to the Masters for 39 years in a row, and people I met through that. It's been great on the. On the sidelines, we get some celebrities that come down there. We had Samuel L. Jackson a few years ago. He was fun, and of course, I guess we've run the gamut with the champ, with Evander Holyfield. Ric Flair has become a new sideline regular, as everybody knows. And we get the governors and senators and congressmen down there. We get some golfers like Bubba Watson and Kevin Kisner, Georgia golfers, come down, and it's just been it's a lot of fun. The Georgia legends that are there. I mentioned Mr. Trippy. I'll see him tomorrow morning from the time at the Wally's Boys, and then I've got to meet Jake Scott, the late Bill Stanfield, late Larry Munson. Some of those folks that have had a great opportunity to meet through doing this, and but it's a fun. I got to be pretty good friends with Tracy Wolfson, who's now on CBS, and Allie Wolf-Force I actually did some photography for her. She's great, and so it's a lot of fun down there. You can have some fun and get your job done too. But so I've been very blessed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who are some people that you want to thank?
Oh yeah, the first thing, we all owe our gratitude to the Sports Information Department for the University of Georgia, which is the best in the world, I think, and Claude Felton, who is stands alone, in my opinion, as the greatest sports information director, in America. I think everybody would say that. You couldn't be a better guy. He's got Steve Colquitt, Leland Barrow, Mike O'Malley, Chris Lakos, Trey Littlefield, and I'm going to leave some people out there, but that work for him that are just fantastic folks. And they, I probably made every mistake in the book as a rookie photographer. And probably too big of a fan. I know I've been accused of that before, but hopefully I've matured at my late age. From at least learned a lot about being a professional photographer. And but those guys, they take care of all the media and the photographers. They're great. And I got my start from Coach McGill. So once again, a shout out to him. And then it's just been great working with Coach Dooley and Coach Rick, and now Coach Smart and all his staff. It's just a real blessing, and you get to be friends with people like Eric Zier and Matt Stinchcomb and David Green and Pollock, and we've got some groups like Tony Barnhart, the writer, that's a good friend of mine. I'll be shooting his golf tournaments for him shortly, and then Chuck Dowdle is a good friend. Perry Langston does the headsets. Eric Hager is a photographer. So it's been a huge blessing in my life to have started doing this at the age of 46, I think, or 47 when I started it. I certainly wish I'd have started earlier.
Right. I kind of wish I'd started podcasting earlier. So I'm with you in that boat. Where could we?
You're gonna have to teach me, because I may be doing some of this on my photography, because that's
okay.
I'm certainly expanding that. Looking to expand that business any way I can.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk. So where can we reach you at on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Rob Saye, ROBSAYE. I'm on Instagram, as well. I need to get on Twitter. I'm not on it yet. I probably need my kid to teach me how to do that one. So that's something I've been behind on. I use Facebook a lot, and I guess that's a generational thing.
He is very active on Facebook. I'll say that.
Yeah,
too.
I'm pretty active on Facebook. So, but I need to do more Instagram. My website again is www.robsayephotography.com. ROBSAYE photography.com, and that's right now. I went to Africa last summer, changed my life, just an unbelievable experience. 10 days in Kenya, and went with a National Geographic photographer, and so I've got pictures from Africa that I'm selling on that site right now, and I'll be expanding that to add more photos. Just got back from a trip to New Mexico with my son, and of course some of my master's photography. We're prohibited from selling Georgia Bulldog photos, so that just goes with the those are that's an NCAA thing. So I don't sell Georgia pictures, but I certainly post a lot of them.
Not even when they're graduated?
No, it's still that's a gray area. There's a lot of stuff going on with the NCAA, and I think what was the UCLA basketball player? I'm trying to remember that sued on last year.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that situation.
It's crazy. It's Ed O'Banion. Yeah, so that's a crazy world out there. As far as how ownership of the rights to people's images and things like that. So I just stay away from that. No controversy for me. So
right, absolutely.
I'd rather be safe than sorry. I want to keep photographing. It's not worth a little bit of money to jeopardize any the privilege and the honor I have of photographing Georgia Bulldog football.
Right, absolutely. Well, thank you, Rob, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity, and I really do. And keep up the great work.
Thank you. Stay on the line just for a second. So here's a sitch on the ATL box score today. We first get into the Falcons' 2019 schedule. ESPN released their version of college football's power rankings. We talk a little bit about that, and then we go around the SEC talking spring games. Then we have a special guest here on the ATL box score, Mr. Rob Saye, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs, is joining us today, talking G-Day, talking all things Georgia football, past, present, and future. This is the ATL Box Score Podcast, Atlanta's newest sports podcast, and you're listening to Football Friday.